the way the world is looking at China is also changing. There is nothing to be proud about being a no debt company. A lot of entrepreneurs are not aware that there are 25 to 30 different debt instruments which are available. For the 85% debt threshold.
Hello and welcome to yet another bang episode of Startup Story Spotlight. This is your host Lata. Today's episode, like I said, is a bang because we have a visionary leader joining us who is also a mentor to many. He has 3 decades of global experience and is the founder of Fundgini.com. Fundgini is the digital investment banking arm of Pentometh Group. Also a global marketplace for fund seekers, investors, investment banks, and consultants for your equity needs, for your debt needs, and for any kind of consultant. And we'll learn more about it. We'll talk a lot more about the investment space in India, a lot more about both of these companies. We'll hear about this from the man himself. But let's welcome Shashank. Thank you so much for joining on this conversation. Very honored to have you here. We'll start a bit about you telling us about Fundgini. You know, this is a very interesting space actually to begin our conversation because of whatever is happening in the investment space lately in India. So many global companies coming in, right? And then at the same time, so much investment going into Indian companies, especially. India has become a very global hotspot for investment lately, right? So tell us a bit about how the Fundgini came into existence and what it actually provides.
So first of all, thank you so much for inviting me on Startup Story. It is a pleasure and honor to be on the Startup Story. So thanks for inviting. Typically the evolution part Fundgini, it started with I come with local global background on the ITS segment about 30 to 35 years. Way back in 2009-10, I started a business networking group. It evolved into 50,000 global experts, part of that group. Work with about 3,000 startups and about 5,000 scale-ups. While I used to work with large MNCs and corporates. So this was a kind of a non-profit group. Then I evolved into being an independent consultant myself. But during the entire, and then when actually companies which I was advising to go global, they needed funds for growth. So that is my journey began with the looking for investors. During the process, I met investors, investment bankers, and while working with this 4,000-5,000 entrepreneurs, one of the common problem which I saw, whether it is a startup or a scale-up, be it Mukesh Ambani or Elon Musk, that is why I call it. But everyone needs funds for growth. That is a simple premise. Second problem which I saw was, especially in the startup ecosystem, there was a 85% debt threshold, or startups actually not seeing the light of the day, primarily because of, apart from other areas, non-availability of funds in time. That was another problem which I saw. And so that is where actually the evolution began about 5 to 6 years ago. I started meeting investment bankers, I started meeting investors, and that's birth of, we initially started as a deal room portal and then evolved into Fundgini.com as a separate entity, focused on attempting to address all the funding requirement in a single place. Okay. Today, what happens is entrepreneurs have to go for unsecured fund to one set of people, for secured fund another set of people. Sometimes you may not be able to get funds from NBFCs or banks. You are looking for private investors, private lenders, so to say, I would call it. And apart from that, equity, of course. For a company to grow, they are also looking at mergers, acquisition, even exits. So this is the audacious goal of Fundgini is trying to become a LinkedIn of funding finance.
Awesome. So I like it when you call it LinkedIn for funding. That sounds very exciting, to be very honest. Also, tell us, you have a wide range of services, right? Debt financing, then you do equity, and then you also provide consultancy, right? Give us a broad view of all of these services, and tell us about the deal making process that goes on behind in these platforms. How does that happen?
What we have done is we wanted to ensure in the ecosystem there are serious participants in the process. So there is a subscription fee which is involved, which ensures people who are serious participate. Whether it is investor, whether it is a entrepreneur, whether it is an investment banker or lender or lending platform, and then there are a lot of consultants or influencers which are actually domain centric or media companies or typically in the financial world you have CAs, ex-bankers. These are the typical go-to people from entrepreneur perspective. They seek their help to actually address their financial requirement or restructuring requirement, etc. So it is a subscription. Then you are actually supposed to put in the fund requirement or any kind of a requirement which you are looking at. It could be your business banking, growth, any kind of a requirement which can be actually communicated to our team. Our team helps you actually take the right kind of a deal to the right kind of a partner. Okay, so we also have for last 160 odd weeks, we are having a weekly call which is going on, and that was actually the core of birth of Fundgini.com. Wherein global investment banker, investors, fund seekers, and consultants, they participate in the call. So once the deal comes in, it is communicated in the weekly meetings. Then it is also taken by our deal making team to the right expert who can address not only one. One of the key things which I have observed is every entrepreneur may require all three or two of the services, which includes unsecured debt as well as secured debt as well as equity. Okay, and each of them, they have a different cycle time of by the time the money hits your account. So our expert deal maker actually catch the finger of the entrepreneur, help them with the right advisory, and take them to the right ecosystem partner. And then the expert ecosystem partner, be it UK, be it Australia, we have partners in Portugal, we have partners in South America, and India, of course. So we do have these partners who will address different kind of funding requirements. One of the things which I just wanted to bring it to you is a lot of entrepreneurs are not aware that there are 25, 30 different debt instruments which are available. Be it supply chain finance, be it bill discounting, be it BG funding, be it greenfield project funding. So including NPA cases and one-time settlement cases and so on. Now there are different experts operating in different areas. So as far as entrepreneur is concerned, either directly or through our consultants, when they come to us, our deal making team actually takes them to the right partner who will be able to give a right solution or multiple solutions. So it may require a debt, unsecured as well as secured as well as a equity. So there will be three different partners who will be working on one entrepreneur's requirement in a same platform. So that's the way it operates. And our deal maker team is actually continues to hold the hand till actually money is disbursed.
That's a great point. I think it takes some time before even the money is credited to their account, and I think an assurance to those entrepreneurs in that time, I think that's very important. So
absolutely. Can I add a point? Let's say the simple thumb rule being unsecured debt can hit the account within 15 days. Okay, provided you have all the details which are there. Secured debt can take anywhere between 1.5 months to 3 months. Equity may take anywhere between 3, 6, 9 months or more. And your M&A deal can actually go beyond that, 12 months, 18 months. So that's a complete cycle. People do not prepare themselves for these kind of delays. At times it can happen faster, but you need to be prepared as an entrepreneur that it could take a longer time than you anticipate.
Right. That's a good point actually mentioned. True. Agreed. Also tell us about this tie-up with the Pantomath group recently. And how do you think that is going to affect your help with your portfolio as well?
So I'll just talk quickly about Pantomath Group itself. Pantomath Group originally was one of the partner of Fundgini from an investment banking perspective out of over 300 partners. Okay. Pantomath Group actually comes with, it's a category 1 merchant banker, having done about 150 odd IPOs. So we are concentrating on the main board IPO for the companies which are 100, 150 crore to 700 crore. That is a switch spot. Secondly, within the group, we have a $100 million fund called India Inflection Opportunity Fund. It is a very exit-oriented fund focused on pre-IPO investment is done and exit is taken at the time of IPO. So that is second. From the investment banking perspective, we have done about 150 plus transactions, which are in 15, 20, 25 crore upward kind of a transaction from the IB team. Apart from that, we have entity called Fundgini, which is actually focused on the incubation activity for very different kind of industries, typically which will have a real deep impact. We are also in the process of creating another 2 funds primarily focused on impact. So these are going to be impact funds. So that's overall Pantomath Group. Now, in terms of Pantomath Group coming as a strategic investor into Fundgini, from a Fundgini perspective, it had a market access in terms of getting the funding requirement from entrepreneurs. Okay, whereas actual delivery and what I mean to say is how to really arrange the finance. That is the ecosystem which domain background Pantomath Group comes with. So that is one of the key strengths Pantomath brings in on the table. For a Pantomath Group, we become a global access or a next generation technology company initiative which we are initiating Pantomath Group under Fundgini head. So apart from Fundgini, there are going to be another 2 or 3 next generation company portfolio which is getting created, and that is a specific strategy of Pantomath Group to look at next gen technology space. And third areas, I was actually looking at a set of team which is like-minded, which can actually give that kind of scale and who comes with a domain. So that's a overall background on Pantomath Group. Additionally, I'm sure everyone in the finance industry knows about Mrs. Deena Mehta, Asit C. Mehta as a group. So Pantomath Group is a majority stakeholder in Asit C. Mehta Group, which is a 42-year-old. Okay. So that's a complete basket of Pantomath Group, which is almost into every area of finance requirement, be it mentoring requirement. And one more point, as I said, within Fundgini, we are creating offerings which are on the growth banking, that is where the global expert will also get stitched in terms of growth. So one element is market making, as I said. Second element is funds requirement, and third is the specific experts which are required at various stages. So that is a kind of an incubation story which we are creating under Fundgini as an entity.
So you're basically creating an ecosystem, a go-to ecosystem where you can get all your financial or consultant needs fulfilled.
Correct. So I tell you the path is actually, it starts with idea, then you are able to actually create the idea to reality. You run it for 3 years, then you start scaling up. Once you have scaled up at a country level, you have a global growth. And then when you are looking at global growth, you need to understand the market. So this entire cycle is where we will be able to stand by and create an ecosystem rather than trying to do everything ourselves.
Understood. Sir, आपने बहुत easily actually mention किया ये पूरा road map. You have an idea, you create, you action it, and then you go forward. I'm sure the journey is like very difficult, which is why you guys will be there for these companies. But coming to you mentioned something about impact, right? You want to create an impact, or you want to work with companies that create an impact, or you're working already with companies that are creating an impact. Tell us, what are some of the industry trends that are going to come forward in India that are going to really impact the way we live today, that are going to really impact and make this economy better than it is today?
So before economy, of course, economy is one of the most important parts for sure. And I'm sure from an Indian perspective, we have seen 4 situations which have actually created an impact on Indian scenario. One was the GST, second was the Notbandi, third was the Corona, and fourth now, which we are seeing the impact is Ukraine-Russia war. Okay. Now, all of this is actually impacting not only locally, it is impacting globally. And the kind of environment with respect to, be it China, there is the way the world is looking at China is also changing. Especially Ukraine-Russia war is impacting a lot on US economy, and more than US, it is impacting huge on European economy. If one really looks at globally, one of the bright spot is Asia Pac as a region, but within that, India happens to be one of the brightest star which is looked at for next economic development. So that is one. Second is the defense corridor and Make in India, as well as the change in the supply chain, is creating a lot of shift of supply chain towards India, and which will actually start working a lot with the MSME segment. Okay. That is the real contributor, or which is a part of that particular evolving ecosystem, and that's a segment which is actually going to grow. If not anything, it will be maybe 30x in next 3 or 5 years. That is the kind of growth which we feel is going to happen. There was the era earlier of ITS segment, services, offshoreization. MNC shifted their various support services to India. Okay. Now last and next 5 years, it is going to be a lot of manufacturing movement which will be seen in India. So that is the way we are seeing the Indian market will be at a I wouldn't call center, but it will be always will be referenced in the global economy.
Will be always in the spotlight, at least.
Precisely.
Understood. And I'm sure that's also because of we always looked at China. China had its own growth story, but it has kind of weakened as an economy, even if not a lot, a little bit. And then people are like, what's the next alternative? and which is why they come to India, right? Also because of the population, and our average population is, I think it's already or is going to be 28 years old, which is a good time to work, right? So I'm sure all of that is going to add. Do you have anything to say?
So I'll add a bit. See, I'm not saying for negative reasons with China. I'm just saying that during Corona, there was so much of impact that there is a need to create a business continuity plan or having an alternate to China as an economy. That is one. As you rightly said, we have a youngest educated population within India and English-speaking population. Okay, so these are actually the positive parts in terms of ability to ease of working in India. The government is changing a lot. Of course, we being a democracy, it has its own different scenarios which come in picture in terms of ease of doing business. But net, there is a confidence is required by investor to invest into anything which has a long gestation period, especially on the manufacturing side. It is a 7 to 10 years horizon or 15 years horizon at least, which has to be looked at in terms of the stability of a country and a political system for making investment which have a longer impact cycles. Okay, and that is what is going slowly favorable for India, and not only India. It is, if you really look at Asian countries like Indonesia, typical that Asian countries, they are also evolving or emerging. Even Bangladesh, it is emerging a fast-growing economies.
Rightly said, of course. Sir, you've been in the space for as long as one can think of. You've helped so many companies, I'm sure startups raise funds as well. You've been in contact with them. Tell us, why do you think startups fail in raising funds?
So, see, one of the major problem is, I would say, first is access to the network. Okay, 80-85% of the startup do not know whom to approach. That is the first problem statement. Okay, I'm not talking about typically the IITs and IIM. Second is there is a insufficient planning done, insufficient thinking done, insufficient business plan availability, insufficient preparation towards the 18 months to 24 months of cycle time to be able to reach a break-even point. That is not calculated by many startups.
Can you explain that point a little?
See, basically what happens is, if I really look at a tech startups, they budget for tech product creation. Okay, and they exhaust up to 70-80% of the budget created by the time they create a product. Okay. But typically, if you really look at the product creation, is just about your 20-30% of the budget exhaustion. The real budget which has to be created is for go-to-market. Okay, and by the time you start creating, approaching the customers, and you are able to reach a break-even point, no matter what, it takes at least 12 months to 18 months to actually 12 to 18 months of sustenance to be able to reach a break-even point. Okay, and if you have not budgeted for that, large amount of startups actually they have a CTO team or a technology team, operation team. By the time they create a product, their 80% of the steam is gone, and they have not planned for the. Actually, it is 20 to 40% is all which you can actually exhaust of the budget for product creation. You are supposed to get 60 to 80% for GTM portion. Okay, and which is not actually planned. So there is a missing planning missing business plan, missing valuation. These are so preparation is something which is missing. Planning and preparation, that is one of the missing element. And third reason why the funding not happens is uh, exorbitant expectation on the valuation. Okay, so that is where investors at times go back, who are not looking at this. And fourth thing is, it is not just about product creation. It is about right team which has to be there. Whether the product is actually been accepted by the minimum viable product, whether it has been created by the startups or no. So there is a complete cycle which is required before investors start looking at you seriously.
We talked about the problems that happen while raising funds, things that could go wrong. Tell us some tips how to raise funds through your platform. Some tips that people can really leverage on, especially in midst of this funding winter that's been going on. What are some tips from your side?
So, see, actually, simple thing, typically rather than given, I may be able to give you generic tips, but it is first of all, best tip is to first talk to my deal maker team. They will actually talk to you, understand your company first. So we don't encourage everyone to come and subscribe our platform. Okay. Only in the first call we analyze that whatever fund requirement which is mentioned, is it a doable thing or okay, based on our gut feel. But here is one thing: if it is a debt, you require at least 2 or 3 years of vintage. And simple principle being, for a debt, every lender is trying to evaluate: do you have ability to pay the EMI? Okay, principal and interest. So they look at debt is a rear view mirror. Okay, and when it comes to equity, it is a windscreen or windshield which you are looking at. You are looking forward looking. So forward looking, it has a connotation of the little bit of a background working on the minimum viable product, customers willing to pay, etc. But thereafter, it is your business plan, your cost, and therefore the valuation which is emerging out of the whole thing. And according to me, carrying out valuation is a very good way of looking into the mirror. It is a mirror for an entrepreneur. So which part of the business and which expenditure has to be done and which will add value to the company, yes or no, it gets very clear when you calculate a valuation. So that is second. Third is the entrepreneur needs to talk to a lot of experts in various areas, okay, during the process, which they at times do not do. So that is a third part of the good story. So there is a lot of preparatory work which has to happen. And according to me, if you are able to sustain for 3 years, okay, then you are actually ready for, then there are indicators of your startup we can become successful or not. So minimum 3 years is what is a good indicator to know whether you will survive. And once you have survived, then there are people who would approach you and who would be happy to work with you, to handle you and take, including the funding and including the growth. All of that would be possible.
Understood. But give us some insights into this debt market trends and this equity trend, what's going on in the market, everything that's happening. And I'm sure you're very keenly observing everything that's going around. Give us some insights, what's really happening and what can we expect in the future given the economic scenarios.
Yeah. So on the debt side, actually, end of the day, when we say investor or lender, okay, he is or they are keen to deploy their funds. Only then their business is to deploy funds and earn money out of that funding. So it is their business to deploy. So they are equally, if not more, keen on deploying funds. So that is the reality of it. So there is no question of, there is nothing like winter. What I hear about is a lot of investors are saying, I am looking at good companies to invest in. That is one of the parameters. Second parameter which I really look at, especially MSMEs, okay, they usually deploy their own funds, and quite a few mention that we are a no debt company. Okay, I have been having some of the conversation with entrepreneurs where I have mentioned very politely, though it is not saying that there is nothing to be proud about being a no debt company, is what is my submission to a lot of entrepreneurs. Because what you are doing is, why you are, there is a huge opportunity cost when you are not taking debt, meaning you are not scaling up. And if you don't scale up, if you don't grow, then it will perish. That is a simple business rule in business. So that is second. Now, in terms of debt is concerned, as I said, whether it is unsecured debt or secured debt or even private finance, everyone is wanting to deploy funds. So there is a fund available. As far as equity is concerned, the ease at which people used to earlier talk about valuation game. So valuation game is, it is almost enter the winter, funding winter they call it. Value game is still on. So there are equity deals which are happening where there is an actual business being done and actual business value. So that is where the deals are happening. So as far as I am concerned, the way I recommend to the entrepreneurs that with the global changes which are happening, especially due to war, etc., raise fund even if you do not require it today, because it is better to have some money in the pocket. Okay, so if you can raise debt and keep it, unsecured debt actually can address your cash to cash cycle, or supply chain finance, about 45 days, 60 days, 90 days. There are different products available for addressing those financial needs.
Right.
Even if you look at highest interest rate, it is a 2% per month. Then also, if you have a margin which is 15%, and if you have 3 month cycle time of payment, let's say cash to cash cycle, then also 15 minus 6. So you are going to still earn 9% margins than giving up that all. And that is actually the game, scale up game. And that is something which some of our customers who have been taking the advice have been able to scale. So that is on the debt portion of startup ecosystem. There are SME segment. Typically, as I said, Pantomath Group focuses 150 crore to 700 crore from a merchant banking side. Okay. Now these are the companies who have created a huge value, which can be unlocked, and we call that as a interest-free money for a business, or bina baich ka paisa is a IPO journey on which we take the company. So for going on that journey, the entire shift which has happened in the businesses, as to those businesses who have adopted to governance and good financial reporting standards, there will be growth coming in, and to keep yourself ready for that growth, you need to actually prepare yourself so that you are able to transparent, scalable, all that kind of parameter. When they are there, it gives a comfort level to investor that my money will be transparently known to me on the returns there. And this 100 crore to 700 crore companies, they can literally grow 30x in next 3 years because of the value creation which they have done, and of course, our experts who hold their hands and take them on that particular path. We have uh, live examples of the companies where we have been associated. They have gone in for 400x or 4x or 1.5x kind of a growth already. So it is not that we are saying that it has actually happened in a 1 year or 2 year cycle.
So I think all the points mentioned, I'm sure everyone can relate and will agree to it. If probably they go through that line, maybe it could really help their business. Great, awesome. So I also have a quick question. Is there a right time to take debt? Is there a proper time, correct time when you should be going for debt?
So, see, I'll tell you a simple thing. So you have an order waiting, and if you have to start delivering that within 15 days, you have to start working on that order. Okay, then there is a only way you can do is by going for an unsecured debt, that is the only thing which can happen within 7 to 15 days. Okay, that one. Second is if you are a financial support for sure. Okay. Second is unsecured debt or secured debt, for example, or nationalized bank or even private banks. They are more than happy to actually work with good companies, and there is a specific defined timeline as far as secured debt is concerned. It is 1.5 months to 3 months, or even there is a structuring of the old finance taken and the top of funding can be done, etc., etc. So there are a lot of banks which are more than willing to deploy funds today, because they are looking for good companies to put their money on. Okay, because as I said, that is their business. Of course, there are private lenders who are also going through the entire business. But on the debt side, as I said, the simple thumb rule being ability to pay the EMI. And what is the right time is, if you are in business, you start looking for debt for sure. Okay, while you are working on the equity. Okay, there are quite a few times what happens is there are term sheets are given, or there are discussions, but for money to actually hit the account, it takes longer time. Okay?
Right.
So we have seen people actually come to us that there is a term sheet available, but during that period, do I get an unsecured or secured debt, etc., etc., and we work with them on
that. Right. And because we talked about younger generations, let's talk a bit about what's happening in the working culture, especially today, with the new kind of generation coming in called Gen Zs. I'm sure you would have interacted with them, right? What do you think is happening? It's like the work culture is shifting bit by bit completely to let's say gig economy, and then different kind of leaves you see today that you didn't see probably some years back. A shift in the work culture is happening, a shift in the kind of jobs is happening, a shift in industries, in economy in general is happening, right? Do you have any insights to give on that? How to go about it? Is the shift what you expected? Is the shift going to the direction that would be beneficial for the economy? What do you think about this culture that's going around?
So see, Gen Z or whatever, next gen to even Gen Z which is coming, it is wonderful evolution. Honestly, they are first of all, they are coming with their ability to take decision and risk is very different. They are very clear on what they want to do, or what they are clear on what they do not want. Okay?
Yeah.
No matter what, they will not listen to you just because. Sorry, our era was different, and this era is different. So getting the basic. Earlier, what used to happen is knowledge was available only through the people. Okay? Now knowledge is available by searching on the Google. Okay? Whether it is, in fact, there is too much of knowledge. So there could be a confusion of what is right, what is wrong, etc. So that is one part of the story. So there is a way of actually approaching what is changed by this generation. Okay, and there is nothing right or wrong. That is actually the way the generation operates. That is one. Second thing which you must have observed, this generation is having a similar pattern across the globe. It is not country specific. Okay, they are behaving in a particular manner. At least 60 to 80% they behave similar. Okay, whether it is their food habits, whether it is their liking, whether it is their communication language, etc. So that has changed dramatically. Now there are a lot of them. They are straight going into entrepreneurship also very early. So I have actually closely worked with some of the people who were 14, 15 or 16-year-old students who have created a AI-based products already and rolled out, and they're phenomenal guys, very young guys.
And what was your experience with them? Did you like?
They're phenomenal actually. The kind of coding they had done. So it is actually. I'll take one example if you are okay. It is actually on the psychological impact which was happening to his co-students. Okay, and because of that, it is an AI-driven psychological help tool which is created by one of the guys or a team of guys. Okay, they are about 14, 15, 16. That is the age group they were.
They're building psychological products. Wow.
They have built already. It is rolled out, and they have already talking to a lot of doctors, as a medical doctor and so on. So this is one of the examples. So there are a lot of these kids are actually doing something very wonderful in their own area. The type of careers which are emerging is also changing a lot. Okay? And so that is one. So rather than saying that they will come and adapt you have, if you are not willing to adapt to them, their working culture, be it organization or be it a person, it will be your failure because they are not worried. They will move on. If their way of working, if it doesn't match your way of working within the organization framework, you have to have a candid discussion. That's all.
Discussion. I think I also fit myself into that category as well, Gen Z. I'm also 99 born, so very much relate to that. I think as a Gen Z, we're very open to conversations now. Any kind of conversations you want to bring on the table, we're open to hearing others' views as well and presenting ours as well. I think we've also, because we've been into this generation, we've learned a lot of how to present things better as well. So we know how to communicate for sure, and I think by that we start knowing what we don't want. We're clear on that. Very much relatable, and that's a good way to have a coexistence. And anyway, right, every generation is going to move forward, and the next generation is going to come through, and they're going to be different from the previous one.
So, I'll add one line. That's it. See, if I tell you do this, okay, and if I tell you to do this and the reason behind it. Now, if I tell you the reason behind it, or doing a certain way, and do this, you will find a better way or a better result because you want to know why should I do this. If I am able to relate and explain you with that, I'll get a much better result. Is what my understanding of being with Gen Z.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I have got a son who is in second year of veterinary.
Okay.
So It is the entire journey since 6 years old to now. So there are many important topics on which I take his inputs.
That's awesome to hear it. Awesome. Okay, I think one of the most favorite question of most early 20s young professionals is how does someone get into make a career into investment banking?
That is interesting. See, actually, a lot of people, it is very fashionable name which it sounds from the investment banking as a career. But investment banking actually requires a lot of work just beyond education. It involves first of all, people have to understand it is a sales role very clearly. It is a 24/7 job. You should be willing to get into any call. You are almost working from Monday through Sundays, kind of thing. Okay. Fourth is you have to be actually willing to. You should be fast learner. Should not go too much in the detail, but if required, you should have an ability to get into detail. So investment banking as a career, typically, which I've seen, it starts with somebody graduates from financial schools, okay, then moving on to get into analyst role, then helping people, put about 6, 7, 8 years of background work, and thereafter they start getting initial opportunity work closely with the investment bankers and go for. So luckily within Fundgini as a platform, we are actually taking interns who are starting to learn from day 1 or day 2 or first 3 months they get to, if not getting into investment banking or becoming an investment banker directly, but they are actually getting to work with the who's who in the investment banking world from the day go. So that's a different learning which is really required. It requires tenacity. It requires people who actually have real interest in becoming investment banker should come in this career, not as no. It should be career choice and not a job.
Great line mentioned, career choice and not a job choice. All right, we'll end this quick conversation quickly. Before I let you go, I just have one question. Based off curiosity, as a keen observer of this startup ecosystem that we see, what do you think is happening in the ecosystem in India right now among the startups? We at least every week, sadly, we're hearing a startup get into rumors about financial irregularities, some feud with the founders, something or the other is happening. What do you think is happening? Do you believe this will keep on going on, or will things get better over time?
No, I think the news which is coming out, in fact, will reduce the scenario, because they are getting to know the impact of the irregularity carried out, and there are people who are kind of either their reputation is gone or there is a legal recourse which is taken against them. So that will definitely go bad. Shortcuts for me scenario, and there are people who are committed to the business and therefore getting legit business. That is something slowly is actually improving in Indian marketplace. So people, as I said, people talked about GST and transparency of reporting, etc., etc. More transparent you are, more growth you will get. So instead of, I will call somebody, instead of looking at 10% of a few lakhs versus 1% of few thousand crores. So your scalability will come because of your focused on the business, even if it is a lesser percent, you will be rewarded much more handsomely rather than trying to take that short.
As a keen watcher, we'll keep on watching where this ecosystem is going, and we'll be part of this along with Sir itself. But thank you so much, Shashank, for joining this conversation. Very honored to have you. Like I said, we got so many insights, and we'd look forward to having you again. For everybody else, keep watching. We'll keep on bringing these conversations going forward. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye-bye.